Okay, so this video will be creating a simple scene like this. So this is just a example that I've rendered, but we'll try to recreate this again. It won't look exactly the same, however I'll try to get as close as possible again. But we'll create this and it's intended for beginners, so hopefully you can follow along. So I'll just close this video and we'll just jump straight into Blender. So we've got a new empty scene, nothing fancy, right? And I'm going to delete this camera and this point light, this sunlight. We don't need this light, we just need the cube itself. We can start off that, and I'll rename the cube to steps. So I'll just double click the hierarchy name here, cube, and just rename this steps. And we're going to convert these into steps. So I'm going to just a little bit of modeling, not too much to be honest, but we're going to move this up. So I'm going to drag this above the floor. So if I hold control, you can see it locks to the grid. Okay, and I'm going to go up here to edit mode. Make sure I have faces selected, so select face, like so, and I'll have my move tool selected. There you go, so you can see. I'll try to use less shortcuts as possible. It's great for helpful stuff out anyway. So you can see where certain things are. So when people use shortcuts, I know normally they'll be like, oh, you just press Control A or Shift this. But when you want to actually know where that option is, or where that that function is on the menu, for example, say I wanted to jump to camera view, and they'll be like, oh, you press 0 on the numpad, instead of going to like camera, active camera, this is the actual shortcut. So so sometimes I prefer to show where they are in the menu rather than showing you the shortcuts. Shortcuts are fantastic once you've learned the software, but for starting, it's a lot easier to show you where it is, and then rather you struggle later to find out where it was. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but I hope you understand. Anyway, enough of me waffling. So select the edge. So I'm selecting the edge mode. Right click, bevel edge. So you can see there's shortcuts for everything. But yeah, bevel edge. And I'm gonna drag this mouse. So you can see I've got this line, and if I drag it, it drags the bevel. And I'm just gonna drag it. Okay. And I'll just click off. I'm not going to click anywhere before. Do not right click or anything like this. So just left click it. So, and what you want to do is go here to customize on the bevel properties. And what you want to do is click on steps. Now you got this step profile that we want to apply to this bevel. Now we can't see it because we don't have enough segments. So as I increase the segments, you can see our steps appear. So for me, it's 16 segments. If I change that width, I can play around with the steps, and then I can change those segments if I wanted. Shouldn't have changed it too much. I just messed it up, but you get the idea. I'm just showing you, you can create all kind of cool stuff. So I'm happy with that. It's not too fancy, nothing too fancy, just simple steps. Just an easy way of modeling set of stairs. I'm going to scale this out, so I'm just going to change to my scale tool, and I'll just change the width on the x-axis. Okay, I'll just minimize that. There we go. Anyway, so we have this now. So next, what we want to do is go into our face mode. So go to edit mode again, select faces, and I'll select this back face here of the steps, and I'll just extend this a little bit. Too fancy. There we go. Next, we want a floor. So I'm going to add the mesh and hit plane. Now you can scale this. So you can scale it. You can choose to scale each axis like this. To scale that. I'll just undo that so you can see. But over here in the items, you can see actually here's the scale. So if I can scale these, as you can see. So I can scale position if I want to move everything. All the item properties are here. You also find it here too. So, you can change that one, as you can see. So you got the options here in your properties here. You can scale position, rotation. Well, also here in your toolbars. To hide this as well, you can tuck this away. So if you don't want to see this, you can like collapse this, or you can press N, and that'll just collapse that whole menu bar on the side. If you want to pull it out, just shortcut is N, and just pulls out these tools like so. So what I'm going to do is just scale this. So I'm going to hit S, or you see here, I can drag this blue icon, or shortcut S and just drag as well. So there's so many ways of doing it. Entirely up to you, whatever you prefer. Okay. Let's select that move tool. So we have a floor. I'm going to rename this plane to floor. Okay. Or you can name it floor, ground, whatever you want, or keep it as plain. I'm not setting any rules. I'm going to move these steps. So I'm going to move these steps to somewhere like around here. Now what we need is Suzanne. So we're going to go to mesh, and we're going to add the monkey, which is Suzanne head. Okay. I'm going to position this over here and rotate her around like this. This is going to be like almost our starting position. So if I go here to the side view, you can see. So we're going to drop, and hoping, maybe I'll drop it somewhere here. So hopefully it kind of boop, 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 or something. I don't know what will happen during the simulation, but as we can see anyway. So what we want to do is edit the eyes, because the eyes are separate on the object. So if us to go into edit mode, as you can see, I just went. I'm so used to using shortcuts, I'm trying to not use them, but I'll go to edit mode and select these the eye. So if I do Control L, it will select the loop selection. Okay, or select loops. I believe it is select loop, and you can say edge loops. So I can do this edge, select loops, edge loops. Oh no, that's a different one, but you get the you see, I'm so used to the shortcuts that sometimes I don't know where some things are myself. But anyway, Control L, and I'm going to delete this eye. So I'm going to delete this face, right click, and I'll repeat this. So Control L, right click, and delete face. Yeah. So now we have no eyeballs. We delete the eyeballs because we want one mesh. So for this, you can go ahead and if I hold Alt and I'll select the edge, and I hold Alt and select the edge, I'm just going to fill these in. So I'm just going to say F to fill in, or you can right click and there should be a fill button here. Okay. And it'll fill it in. But now that should be, if I was to do select a face, and then go, say select this face here and Control L, it's one object. The eyes are not separate. Entirely up to you. Anyway, we've now filled in the eyes, and that's fine. If you don't want to use Suzanne, you can use you can use a cube, you can use a UV sphere, you can use any of these shapes. It doesn't have to be Suzanne, so you don't need to follow along. And with the same object, shade smooth, and it looks horrible. Don't worry, we'll make it look nice and pretty in a second. And I might move it slightly more forward and just scale it a little bit down. Yeah. So what we need to do is apply physics properties to these objects. So the easiest ones to start with is the collision object. So we want this floor to be the object to collide with the floor. So here you got this little physics tab, and here all you have to do is say collision, and repeat this again on our steps. We're going to go to our physics tabs and collision. Next we're going to choose Suzanne, and this is going to be our soft body, because we want this to bounce, and you can there's rigid bodies and soft bodies. Soft bodies we want want this nice and jelly like, rather than a hard object bouncing. So we want to use a soft body. And if I hit play, you'll notice it just hovers in space. So what you need to do is uncheck the goal. So now if I hit play, you see the simulation take place, and Suzanne like deflates. There's no stiffness, but however, it's kind of like, it's like deflated and kind of melted on that step, which we don't want. So what we'll do is go here to our edges menu, and drop that down, scroll down, turn stiffness on, and here, I don't know why they call it bending. I guess it's the bending of the bodies, or I don't know exactly why it's called bending, but I'm going to increase this to something like 15. Okay, 15. Okay, 10 seems to be the max, but we'll see. Anyway, and hit play. Now, we should get a nice, bouncy Suzanne falling down the stairs. As you can see, it's trying to calculate as it falls. It's just bounce along the floor. It's a bit, it's a bit rigid. So maybe we want to do this 5, the bending of 5, and we'll hit play. And that looks a bit more, bouncy. Now, depending on your machine, you can see mine's struggling. So this right now is doing 2 FPS. So it's struggling, but you get the idea. And you can go back and play around with the settings and tweak these settings. Also, if you want to change, for example, the speed of the simulation, so if you want it to double the speed of the simulation, you can increase that, or you can slow it down. So if you want bullet time simulation, not really slow, just really slow, fast. I'll do something like 0.8. Okay, so it's not too fast, it's not fast and stuff, but it's just, it's slightly slow. So it's just off us, off the usual speed of 1. Anyway, it's up to you. You can play around with that. So what you want to do is, once you're happy with like the position and all your settings, and where it's gonna fall and everything, you can go here to cache, and you want to cache this in. So you're gonna hit bake. Okay, make sure you save your scene. It's important in case you crash. Save everything. So if I go save as, and then I'm gonna Suzanne soft body, and then I save. I've saved my work, so just in case it crashes or something happens. So now I'm going to say bake simulation. As you can see, it's now calculate. So I'll be back in a second when that calculates. Okay, so I'm back and the simulation's cached. It took a while, but my machine is pretty old, so I mean, depending on your system, it might go quicker or slower. You might have a new system. Mine's pretty old, like really old, 7 years old. So my CPU is struggling. But yeah, it gets the job done anyway. It just takes a little bit longer. Anyway, as you can see, I can scrub through now, no problem without it simulating, because it's all cached into memory. Here you can see it says cached into memory 250 frames. There we go. So now we can now start to make this look a little bit pretty. So we have our animation. So if I hit play, you can see we've got this nice jello monkey head bouncing down the steps. And what we want to do is make it look nice. So we're going to click on the little spanner, the modifier tool. So we're going to add modifiers to it. I'm going to add a modifier. And what we're going to do is add a subdivision surface. And you can see already how much it does to it. So where it says render, I'm going to just keep this 1 and 1. I think 1's okay for this example. You don't need anything more than that, to be honest. And it looks perfectly fine. See? There you go. I like the look of that really much. I like it a lot. I like it a lot. Anyway, click on here, the viewport render, up top right, viewport shading. Click this. As you can see, we've got no lights in the scene, no materials. If we click here where it says scene world, we can have some kind of lighting from the default environments and the scenes. I'm going to use this bedroom one, and I'll bring the strength down really low. really low, something like 0.2, something like this, just to give us a little bit of light. In the rest of it, we will light ourselves, you know. So this is kind of giving us a starting block. You can change this at any point. You can, you know, change the rotation, the strength. You can even change which one, depending on the lighting you want to do. It's entirely up to you, you know. Anyway, let's add some material. So to add a material, we can go up here to the shading tab, and again we can switch viewports here if you want, and do the same. Just uncheck that and then choose what you want. Try to match, if you're going to work in the shading ports, try to match what your layout viewport will look like, give you a better idea, rather than, you know, it's up to you really. But yeah, I like to work this way. So you got the plane, which is our floor. Now I'm going to add a new material. Okay, and as I change this color, so I want to say this to be black, slightly black, or black grayish, and gunmetal style, and bring the roughness down. You can see here, you can see bits of the reflections in it. So I'll bring that roughness down a tiny bit, and yeah, that's it. Nothing fancy. I'm not going to go too much into the materials, just really standard materials. So on this one, I'm going to click on the material tab. So you can see they already assigned default material, and I want to remove that one, and I want to assign a new one to the steps, and I'll give this a color. So on that video I did it like a teal blue at the start of the video, but maybe you want to go for a different color. Perhaps we'll go for a, you know, slightly beige color, it doesn't matter. And I want to increase that roughness. Go, and there we go. Yours can be pink, blue, red, white, yellow, green, whatever you want, it don't matter. And now Suzanne, we want to assign a new material to her. So I'm going to go new, and this one will, you know, we'll make it, like I said, we'll make it a bit more fancy. So the transmission, you'll bring all the way up to 1, and bring the roughness down. Okay, and now choose the base color. So whatever color you want. So if you want like jello, it could be green jello, yellow jello, blue jello, whatever jello color you like. Go for kind of purpley blue. There we go. Now I'll go back to my layout up here, top there. You can see that's nice shiny material. However, we need some lights to show it off, you know, show off our scene. So let's go onto our render property engine. So the render engine settings up here. So this little TV screen here is like your render properties, and this is the render engine is Eevee that we're using. We're not using Cycles for this. Cycles is a beast on its own. We can get really cool results and more realistic, but Eevee's pretty good for something like this. And beginners, you know, just want to check ambient occlusion. Now you can play around with the distance here. I'm gonna over exaggerate the distance and say something like 12 meters, and you can see it's really over exaggerated, but it, you know, it doesn't matter. But you can see how much it's added to it. Okay. Some people do like, you know, 2 or 1.5. Everyone's got different settings. I'm going for this one. I'm just over exaggerating it. Make sure you turn screen space reflections on, and you can see reflections. If we open this up, just uncheck half trace and then reset trace position. Go. And you can see now we're getting reflections. Okay, so what we want to do is add a cube. So we're going to cube, and this cube will be our fog for the volume of this area. So I'm going to scale this up so we're inside. So it takes up the entire scene. So like you could do it like this, scale it up. So we're inside the cube. Go. And what I'm going to do is go into shading. Okay. And then the cube itself. So make sure you have that cube selected. I'm going to rename this fog. and then I'll say new. That's a new material. You can rename this material if you want as well. Fog. You can delete this principled PDF, so you can disconnect it from the surface, and you'll see it'll go black. Delete this, and here from volume, I'm going to drag out this little string connected to the node, and then we're going to write principal volume. Yeah, so now we have a principal volume. Now you can add here, you can add principal volume from here too. So you can, if you don't, you know, or you can search for it by hitting spacebar, the principal volume, to find the same object. And you also have a search here. So you have lots of ways of doing it. It's just cool. Anyway, so we have this fog, and what we want to do is bring this density to something like 0.05. So, you know, we have a really dark scene. So if we go back to our layout now, so we have fog in our scene, however we have no lights. Now when we add the lights, this is when it starts to come to life. So lights, and what we're going to do is add an area light. So as you can see, if I move this down, you can already see what effect it has over it. If I scale this up, S to scale, and move this up, this over here. Perhaps I want this above, so I might like this slightly differently from the render I showed you, but yeah, like I said, it won't be exact thing. I'll increase that power. So this power, when I increase this power of the light, so say I'll do 1500, boom. Now we've got this crazy soft, it's a nice effect, soft light from above. You know, it's light into sound. However, we're losing the subject, but I do like that from above. So maybe I'll move this up like this, and have a second light here. I'll duplicate, Shift D, and to duplicate, and I'll have this one over here, lighting it from this side, and rotate this. So something like this, and if we imagine, maybe bring this power down. Let's just say 500. Okay, it's entirely up to you. Okay, and I'll just bring this out a little bit. Okay, so animate this. You can see it looks cool. Now I can click on my light, and we can change the colors. So I change that color, something like a color there, and I click this top light. Maybe this one's you know, pinky reddish orange. Yeah, it's entirely up to you. As you can see, we'll get some nice looking scene. Probably we want one more light to, like, you know, just to fill that in. So maybe we'll just add another light, and maybe even let's just add a point light in here. Doesn't even have to increase this by, I don't know, 100. I'm just washing everything out. Perhaps I'll bring this back a tiny bit. Yeah. But yeah, play around with that. Bring that radius down. And on that point light, maybe it's a bit orange. I feel the fog is really dense, so I can go to my fog material here under volume. So the shortcut is you can go into this little material ball, and we can change this to say 0.2, break this down, or 0.005. Oh, sorry, 2 or 1. There we go. And it's less intense, but you know, it's entirely up to you in the look you want. Maybe 2, 0.2. There we go. And I like the look of that. You know what? Just to be a little bit extra, I'm just going to do just a tiny bit extra step. It wasn't part of the video, but if we go to the steps and we go into we go add, so we've got the steps, we've got a material on the steps. I'm going to add a second material, new, and I'll change this to an emission, so, and I'll just call this glow, right? I'll leave it white for now. So we have that. So what I'm going to select the steps, go into edit mode. Make sure you have faces selected. Now what I'm going to do is select every other step like that. So, you know, I have one step each. On the glow here, I'm just going to say assign. So now I've assigned those faces this emission. Okay. So now you can see, you know, I'm picking up a reflection of the steps, but I also got this cool glow. So if I light this up, you can see by me increasing the emission, I'm lighting the step up. You know, I've got, so you can use different materials. Let me get out of edit mode. There we go. So I'm lighting up Suzanne as well by using the materials and the lighting. But there you go. Hopefully that's useful. I haven't waffled on too much, I hope. Let's bring this up to 100. It's in. So bring this. Maybe I'll bring this to 2500. And it's just about playing with the lights and the strength, finding what works and what doesn't, until you're happy with that. So. And next, what I forgot to turn on in the actual thing, because we've got this, add some bloom, just check bloom, and you can see we get the bloom of the emissive surfaces as well, which is really nice. I might change this dark purple, this, oh yeah, and the roughness you can change. Well, have I got transmission to 1? Yes. Change that transmission roughness if you want as well, but I'm pretty happy with that. Bam, bam, bam. And like I said, you can change, feel free to change these environments as well. So if I click off, you'll see I'll get a completely different environment and bring the strength up. You know, how much it's affecting the scene is a lot. Maybe that's not the best one, but yeah. It's down. But they have a lot of impact on the scene as well. Just this, but I don't like to use too much of that. Just a tiny bit, but not too much. There you go. And if you want to render your animation out, well, I recommend if you want to do a quick render, you know, with just of the viewport, you can do is turn these gizmos off, turn all your gizmos off here, top left and top right. So you turn this gizmo and the shading overlays, or so you don't see anything. You preview your animation. If you're happy with that, you can go view, render animation, and it'll render that animation of the viewport. And it's a great way to preview your animations. You know, you can see it, get an image sequence out of it, and what it'll do, it'll just go into, depending on how you set Blender, it should go into your C drive under the temp folder. So you have a TMP folder, and you'll see here is where you'll find your image sequence. You can also do is with a right click, vertical split your scene, so you've got 2 viewports. So what I like to normally do is set this as my viewport for my camera, and then this is my work one here. So I'll move this across. So say I'm working in this view here. Now I can navigate and move stuff around, and I can lock my camera to this. So if I go add camera, and then we're going to go view active camera, we can see what the camera is. I'm going to pop out this menu here where it says view here. I'm going to select camera to view, okay, and I'm going to just press N to hide this side panel. Okay. Now what I can do is, you can see I'm moving the camera, and here in the scene, if I pull back, you'll see, where's the camera? The camera is here. Oh, make sure you have your gizmos turned on this one. So I've turned those off. There you go. So you can see as I move here now, because I have the view to camera, I can navigate. You can see me moving the camera, and you can see where I'm positioning this. And if I hit home, which should frame this bigger, so frame it to my viewport. So I can frame this camera how I want to render it out. Perhaps get a rough idea, you know. And I can say, okay, we see it fall down the stairs, and I position my camera. And my camera's all the way over here. If I want, I can move this here in this viewport, or I can just move it around here. It's entirely up to you. Then you've got all your different additional camera settings. I'm not going to go too much into that, but hopefully that was useful. Maybe I want to see some of this, you know, these glowing steps. And on the glowing steps, like I said, change the, you know, the glow. You can bring it down. You can also change the color. Don't need to leave it white. It can be blue, green, whatever you want. And that's just a bit extra. I just added in. Not planned. Nothing is planned. Like I said, you know. Go. Perhaps this once you want your Suzanne to be, I don't know, right brink. You might want to make it that, you know, give it a mission strength or add some emission to it, you know. So if we increase that color, you can make this glow if you want. There you go. You know, there's no rules to what you do. Like I said, you can make different variations of this. If you don't want it to glow, or if you don't want it to be, you know, transmission, you can bring this down. You can bring this to 1. You can put this back. You can make this metallic. See what I mean? You have a play around with all the settings, create different versions. It doesn't have to be whatever settings I use. Perhaps you don't want it rough and you don't want it metallic. You know, you want it metallic but not rough. You know, less reflective. You get, you know, you get a different look, different style, and of course you can change the colors. Like, you know, change the colors, play around, finding lighting that you like and what you want to do. You know, until you're happy with the result. But thank you again. Like I said, oh yeah, and yeah, I showed you how to render it. You can say go view. You can render this viewport here, render viewport animation or viewport render, or you can go here and with final render image, for example, and I've got a full render of that image. But there you go. Enjoy your day, morning, evening, night. If you can hit the share, like, subscribe as well, helps me out. See you again. Bye bye.